Good morning, Tony Datino. We are now into the second week of November. It's November 6th as we move along. And I wanted to finish up what I've been talking about that comes out of the New Science magazine, Future Proof Your Brain. Future Proof Your Brain. And I just can't get enough of this article. I just read it and read it and read it and say, wow, the things that we do in the USA Memory Championship. So if you want to go look at the USA Memory Championship website, we've got a maximum memory mastery online course, and we've got 6 key factors to long-term brain health course. And both of those really, this is almost like the great marketing piece for those 2 courses, but this is not about the courses right now. It's about understanding what science is uncovering and discovering about what they call cognitive reserve. So, and here's where I'll start with the end in mind and then come back. In recent decades, it has become clear that Alzheimer's disease is linked to the loss of synapses. Synapses, those are the firings of the combination of electricity and chemistry that fires across our neurons that create these electrical pulses that help us with what we call our memory traces. So the synapse is this gap that we fire, a little bit of a synapse of electricity goes across and connects to another cell. Well, it says here, it's become clear that Alzheimer's disease is linked to the loss of these connections, so the firings are not taking place. Due to the degradation of the dendritic spine that protrudes from the neurons. So the spine is like the backbone of you, and it protrudes from this neuron, and this is where the connections are being grabbed and held onto. So neurons that make connections with other neurons. The dendritic spine density is critical for information processing, memory, and learning. A critical insight is that the dendritic spine density is maintained whose peoples are affected by Alzheimer's, but who are cognitively normal. So there's a piece there that kind of gets lost in the writing. What they're discovering is if you maintain a cognitively strong brain, cognitive reserve, then the impacts that start to disease or impact your symptoms of your brain do not have as strong as a negative impact. So the whole point of the article is, how do you build cognitive reserve? Cognitive reserve is the endpoint of exercising your brain throughout your life. So we think so much today of exercising our body, and we can visibly see that, right? We can see if we've worked out our muscles and we've done whatever it takes to do our abs and our chest and our pecs and then our chest. We can see muscle build guys. We can see people with thighs. We can watch a football game and look at the thighs of the football players that are running or playing and tackling. And physical changes we can observe, and they're easy for us to see the benefits of. But what about mental exercises? What do we do for mental exercises? How do we build this cognitive reserve? So it goes on to say in the article, and this is what's so important, socializing is a mental challenge where you have to remember names and faces. I talked about that in my last session, so I'm going to pick it up from past the socializing. What else? Stress impacts. Negative stress pushes too much cortisol through the body. It's like a toxin. So do you build a level of resilience into your levels of stress where you can stress yourselves, but then you give yourself a break where you ease off and you don't get yourself so knotted up and fired, which is then pushing cortisol, which is what we use for fight or flight. But what they've discovered is an excess of it is like putting poison into your brain. So what do you do for stress? What do you do for obesity? And a poor diet can have an impact on the reserve due to the inflammation they trigger. So now this is a whole different angle on obesity and diet, where it talks about the inflammation. And what we know is inflammation, as doctors will measure on your annual checkups, as well as your body in what they call an inflammation stage, is your brain in a stage of inflammation. The persistent inflammation, which can disrupt many of the brain's functions. It can't use glucose effectively, and nerve activity is upset. It compounds the effects of the low chronic inflammation that inevitably, God, my good, these big words, develop as we age. So what it's basically saying is these are some of the factors that are going to impact your cognitive reserve. What really seems to matter is the strong mental engagement and focus on challenging activities as a way to offset it. So what do we do to build strong mental challenges in our life, which we talk about continuing to learn something in your life throughout your life? And it can be a hobby, it can be gardening, it can be cooking, it's just learning something new. So I'm playing now more and more, and just kind of walked into it, putting plants into our garden around the front of our house. And I'm just enjoying it so much, and watering the plants and taking care of them and watching them grow, and they call them my little babies. And so it's never too old to start something new. So what are some of the mental challenges and how you focus on these? Now, is it challenging? Well, are the plants growing? What are the leaves looking like? How deep does the soil have to be? What kind of dirt do you put in? And I'm now watching these plants grow on a daily basis. I go out in the morning, I go out in the afternoon. There's something for all of us that we can learn to do that we haven't tackled before that build cognitive reserve. Another factor linked to cognitive reserve is physical activity. We have talked about that. My goodness, I think we can be endless on this, and the benefits of not just the aerobic activities of it, but realizing that the aerobics feed the brain with oxygen, which we need, but that cognitive reserve in physical activity. A study of 130,000 adults found that cognitive decline was twice as common among those who were physically inactive compared with people who were active. Now, if you have any concern about your mental fitness and about your long-term cognitive abilities, then by God, what types of movements are you putting into your day-to-day activities? And gardening would work, walking is another one, standing out and doing some grass cutting, planting some trees and digging some holes or bushes and things. If you're in the city, taking a walk around the block and meeting people and socializing as you're exercising. But follow this, 130,000 people, they found that cognitive decline was twice as often as those that were inactive compared with those that were. It's because the role of exercise in brain health rather than social engagement is multifaceted. It supports cardiovascular health and blood flow through the brain. It's important for brain health, and it helps reduce the inflammation we just previously talked about in terms of nutritional challenges. It supports the importance, and it helps reduce inflammation and elevates the levels of brain neurotropic factors, a substance that has been shown to increase the size of the memory cell center that is found in the hippocampus. And it also improves your memory by promoting a deeper level of sleep. And we've talked about the level of sleep. And as we go down into these deeper levels, what seems to be more important in terms of cleaning out the toxins as we go into deeper levels of sleep. Many more obviously cerebral activities influence our reserve. Various studies show that speaking more than one language acts as a cognitive stimulant, though bilingual and multilingual people eventually have the same number of diseases, but bilinguals tend to be able to stave off these symptoms far longer, says Iowa State University. What really seems to be the key here is demanding tasks, doing demanding tasks that strengthen the pathways and create alternate pathways that mitigate the loss of function due to progressive brain degeneration. So what you're basically trying to figure out is you're building new roadways in your brain as you talk about doing socialization, you're doing exercising, you're doing strengthening, challenging your brain to new pathways. You're building new roadways, new pathways, and that underline the neural functions. We used to think that neuroplasticity was the privilege of young, meaning neuroplasticity, you grow these new pathways. So we always thought that young people do this as you get older. But evidence over the last few years shows that neurogenesis during adulthood and old age is just not at the same rate, doesn't do it at the same pace. but it does. So you're never too old to be learning something new. And to close this up, one critical insight is that the dendritic spine density is maintained in people whose brains are affected, but who are cognitively normal. So what it basically says, if you grow these pathways, you can maintain cognitive function. And I just don't know what, I mean, my plea to people, my urging to people is think of your mental fitness just as much as you do your physical fitness. And dementia, cognitive decline, impairment, you give yourself a heck of a better shot, and the future is a lot brighter than if you were just to be passive about it. That is my Monday. That is my third part. Again, I had just loved this article, and it was all about building a brain bank, and this is how you do it. Have a great week. We are off to another week. We're now another week closer to done with Halloween, off our ways to Thanksgiving, and I shall see you out here on Wednesday.